What's up, everyone? Tag a friend and let them know we're about to get into it.
Welcome to the SpeakHer Podcast with your host, Camille Essick, the podcast where creators and innovators connect. Let's get started.
The world can be a circus, ringling, watching the world spinning around, dizzy. This is the place to excel, sit down, a place to listen, a place to take in.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm your co-host Jonathan. Camille will be here shortly. Before we begin, be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe.
Keep the SpeakHer Podcast ad-free. Scan the QR code and buy me a coffee. Your support keeps us ad-free as we continue to bring you conversations impacting the community and the culture.
Listen, go to SpeakHer Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Please share this and tag a friend who needs to hear this.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the SpeakHer Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. Follow me across all streaming platforms such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. I do have a new Instagram handle. We're going to get into that later. Lord Jesus. But without further ado, my brother and friend Antwan Aiken is back. Antwan, he's also, I guess, my academic colleague. Antwan, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be back. Always good to be home.
Yes. So just a little backstory. I have a new Instagram handle. Some people out there are being mean. So I have a new handle, having to start over, and the struggle has been real. But one thing that I've learned is that sometimes pivots come, life happens, and we have to learn how to be resourceful and quick on our feet. So if you see a lot of my old chemistry room fragrance stuff on my new Instagram page, I'm having to convert that into my page now. And it's been a doozy when you've had triple digit numbers for a post as far as photos and videos and reels. It's a lot to try to delete all that and then rebuild from scratch. But again, as a creative and in the creative space and innovative space, you just have to learn how to pivot and move forward, because I was really in my feelings about it. Then I was like, this is so unproductive. Take an old account and convert it. So that's what we did. I've known Antwan for a really long time. It seems like we're kind of doing life together at this point. We met through the Mark Coley Business Academy. We did a whole pandemic together. Some people call it the panorama. We did the pandemic together. We had the entrepreneur was that the retreat. We did that as well. And then in this space, as far as collaboration and supporting, what he does as far as the Aiken Foundation, him supporting me in the podcast. And I really feel like collaboration is not about coming over and just helping yourself and getting a to-go plate, but it's bringing something to the table. And so I love what the Aiken Foundation does. I love supporting their holiday soiree. That's the one day a year I go outside.
One day we get auntie outside.
Man, I feel like I'm still kind of a cousin. Don't push me over the edge yet. I'm still a cousin. And yes, I just have TT moments, okay? And it's just a great time to see familiar faces every year. And so to have Antwan back, he has contributed so much to this podcast in this space of mental health and Black men on the professional end. He is an educator and very professional. And he's been, I think, you were emergency ER psychiatric therapist. Like, he's done so many things, and now he is working on his doctorate, and I'm working on my PhD. So it's just like we're literally moving in life together, and I think that's so cool. So without further ado, I think I've said enough. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Speaking of, we talked about school before the show, and summer break, a little brief summer break right now. So
not there yet. I got like 3 more days.
You still in the thick of it. But I'm doing good. I think going back to school was something that was a hard decision for me. Haven't been out of school for 13 years, but honestly, it has been a really good decision. Regardless of how stressful it is, like being back in an environment and doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, it has been a good experience, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's great, especially what we're going through right now, which we're going to talk about as far as Black people in this country with the messaging and how important it is for us to have what I call the minds, the thinkers in those spaces when you have narratives out there attempting to say, well, Black people are this, African Americans are that. And we have to be in those spaces because that's where the thought leadership comes, creating the research, creating the literature and other pieces of information. And so before we get into the mental health side of everything, Antwan, can you kind of touch into the importance of spaces like yours and mine in that higher education space when it comes to PhDs and doctorates?
I think it is so important. I mean, I think that the statistic is is it 2% of the population have doctoral education? And when you think about what it means to have a doctoral education, those are your thought leaders. Those are supposed to be the people that really push all of the things that we utilize to make society go forward. And to not have representation is just a very harmful thing because somebody else is telling our story and they're not telling it our way. So I think that having representation with doctoral degree holders is very, very important. And I think that it's something in my cohort, I don't know about yours, I'm seeing a lot of that diversity. Like it's very reassuring to see that there are people that look like me that are also pursuing doctoral education. We all have different research interests and our different ways that we want to impact the community, but it's inspiring to see more diversity. But of course, we always say we've come so far, but we still got so far to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a layered topic because in the space as far as doctoral PhD route, but then you look at less than all attorneys in the United States, less than 2% of them are Black. Then you dwindle that down to how many of us are judges or doctors. And so in that level, that tier of degree, we see the impact when we don't have faces that look like us on the bench, in the courtroom, whether if you're before the bar, or just on the other side of it, just a little bit as the attorney, or even in law enforcement, as far as a sheriff or deputy, right? When you look at that, as far as in the world of medicine, we definitely have seen and continue to see how that impacts us in emergency spaces, in PRIO and natal care, just in field of medicine across the board. And so we need us in those spaces for our health, for thought leadership, the judicial system, and so across the board. So even for you in the mental health, because that is your expertise, what does that look like and how is that shaped for you?
In terms of the doctoral
representation.
That part is so major. I tell, you talked about first how I teach, and I teach graduate level students. Most of my students are interested in being therapists and clinicians. And I tell them all the time that when I walk into the room and it's another young Black boy, that I don't even have to do much in terms of building a relationship with them. That my mere presence in terms of how I look, how I'm dressed, how I speak, all of those things immediately build rapport and we feel comfortable. Like I think of even myself, if I'm going to the doctor and there's a doctor that comes in that's Black, there's an immediate connection that I feel with that person. There's a lot of things that I feel like, well, I don't even have to say this. Like they understand that part. I may have to explain to them who I am, but when I say certain things, it's not going to be a foreign concept to them. It's not going to be something that's unusual. So I think in my space, where men, particularly Black men, we have not always been encouraged to pursue behavioral health or mental health. When they see me come in, immediately have an easy job of really just explaining to them that we're just having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like to be labeled. People don't like to feel like they're less than. So I'm immediately dispelling all of that as soon as we sit down and talk. Let's just have a conversation about what's going on and let's go from there. So I think that in my field, we need mental health in terms of therapists are dominated by white women, upper class women. And that's not to say that they can't be good clinicians, but there's a certain lived experience that you have when you're a person of color, and especially a male of color, that is just unique to our experience.
Mm-hmm. So in that space, and I've heard this from the Black male educators, or just Black educators I've had on the podcast, and we've talked about that in the classroom space, as far as how students respond when they see a Black male in the classroom. And how for some, not all, but for some, if there's not one at home, that response in the classroom, they're eager to have that. It's almost like you become more of a parental role to a degree, and seeing that representation, and even how little Black boys, and I know you're not in elementary, but just for context, their response when they see someone that looks like them in front of the classroom in that space. And so for you, on the clinician side, like you said, the nuances in terms of, if I were to say, turn the stove light over the kitchen off, like certain, you know what I'm saying,
right?
And so there's just certain nuances, like you said, we don't have to break down. So when you're dealing with students that don't look like us, how do you feel that response translates in the classroom? Like, is there a curiosity? Mm-hmm. And I know with social media, there's been a lot of conversation. It's like the gates are open, and the gatekeeping is not what it was. So do you experience that level of curiosity on some things, or is it, how does that really work in that space? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'll answer that, and I'll even talk about what you talked about at first. I think that it is so inspiring when I walk in on the first day of class, and I can see the look in my Black students' faces. Like, well, first when they see the name Antwan, they're like, he probably Black.
I wonder.
But then when I walk in class and just see the look on their face, it's inspiring to me, because I think a lot of times, and I'm sure you can relate to this, like when you do something that not everybody does, it's kind of the norm for you, especially when you're a go-getter. Like, you don't really see it as being, you see it as being an achievement, but it's also kind of the norm. Like, I'm doing my purpose. Like, I'm doing what I was here to do. So to see the look on their face, it's like, okay, we got a Black professor teaching us. That's always inspiring.
Most of side eye when you walk in, it's kind of like, yes.
Yeah, and then I intentionally dress down. I am not a suit and tie professor, because my white colleagues are not suit and tie professors either. So I don't feel like I have to like dress up to get this respect. So when I walk in to see my students of color, and even my Hispanic students, other just kind of disenfranchised student groups, that's always inspiring. But most of my students aren't that. Most of my students are white females. So every semester I have at most one Black male. I have a handful of Black females, but most of my students are white students. I think that initially when I first walk in, there probably is some perceived assumptions. I think that they make an assumption about the type of professor I am based on how I'm dressed. They'll think that I'm younger than I am. They may think that it's going to be easy A. I think they'll make a lot of those assumptions. And I think that a lot of times, because I always do some kind of introductory icebreaker, there's a lot of my students that for real, have never been around Black people. And you would think that by the time my students are graduate students, but they grew up in a small Midwestern town, and they went to a university in a Midwestern city or state where there wasn't a lot of students of color. So they may have had some Black people, but it may have been like one or two. And then when they come to Metro Atlanta, and Atlanta is diverse.
The UN of the South.
Right. So a lot of my students will say like, I've never had a Black teacher before, or I've never been in a class with this many Black students. And I'm like, it's only 7. But to them, it's like, it's
Culture
just,
shock. Yeah.
it's a culture shock. So that's always to me a good opportunity, because when I am teaching, I am authentically myself. I really pride myself on being that. I don't hide who I am. I don't hide my Blackness. I don't hide my culture. I talk a lot about my upbringing, because my class is human behavior. So I bring a lot of myself into that experience. And I think that for my students, I think by the end of the semester, they really appreciate having that different cultural experience, because before me, everything was the same. I was around people that looked like me, that thought like me, that had the same influence as me. And then you got this, young Black boy coming in with khakis and a polo. And you like, this is my instructor. But yeah, I think that it ends up being a good opportunity for them.
Yeah. And I think that's really good, because that helps break some of that shield as far as what I call the stereotype that's perpetuated through social media. And so they have an idea of who we are, and we're not a monolith, right? And so I think when being in Atlanta, no matter where you're from, it's a culture shock within its own. But to see how everyone, I don't say it's a melting pot, it's like a salad. It all mixes together, but then you say, oh, there was some tomatoes, I see the onion,
Right.
It's like one big salad. And but they all love lemon pepper dressing, right?
Everybody, universally.
Everybody.
And I grew up in South Carolina, so I didn't grow up in a place like Atlanta. I always wonder, what would it have been like growing up in Atlanta? Like, I grew up in South Carolina, where there were a good bit of Black people, but nobody was doing well. Like, other races did well, but as Black people, we did kind of just enough. And that was what I saw, that ultimately all of the people in power, the mayors, all white, the judges, all white, all of the professionals are white. Most of my teachers were white. I think K through 12, I had maybe 2 Black teachers, kindergarten to 12th grade, 2 Black teachers. So I grew up in an environment where it was perceived that the professionals are the white people, and that the people of color were the service workers. They worked in retail, they worked in fast food. Like, that's just what I grew up seeing. And that was kind of widespread in the city that I grew up in.
Yeah, absolutely. There were 1, maybe 2 Black educators I remember as a child. They weren't my teachers. The one I remember, he was the gym teacher.
One of mine was the gym teacher.
Yeah, he
Mr.
was the
Stubbing.
gym teacher. And then I think the principal or the assistant principal. But then I did not have a Black teacher again until, if I remember correctly, college. And it was my freshman, I don't remember her name, but I remember her face. It was my freshman English teacher. And she had a reputation of being one of the hardest English teachers. And she did not really, if you got an A, you earned it. And so the first month of school, and she gave us our first writing assignment, it was the first time I had not gotten an A, and it hurt my feelings, because I was like, I know how to write. And so she told that, and the class was livid. And so she was like, well, I'll let you all, write on the edit, I'll grade on the curve. And I got my paper back, and out of the class, she was in her office for something. So we were like, oh, what did you get? What did you get? I got an A, and 1 other person got an A. And so, and I worked so hard for that A. And she pulled me into her office, and she looked at me, and she was like, I've been so hard on you. And I was like, no, ma'am. And it was almost like a scene out of a different world. She said, because pretty much, she was like, because you're Black. She was like, no matter where you go, Black female, they're going to assume things about you as soon as you walk in. So I have to be tougher on you than everyone else in this classroom. And I went to a PWI. And so she was just blunt. And she was like, it's not that, me not like I'm picking on you. She was like, I'm pushing you because I see your potential. So I'm going to be on you. And once I understood that, we had that conversation and she kind of gave me that grin, like, your old auntie. I was like, and it made me work harder in that class. But guess what? At the end of the semester, on my report, I had an A.
He was like, I got this now.
Yes. So it was really important. So again, having us in the classroom in those thought spaces, I think it's really good. And then on the other side, what you're mentioning as far as with your students, that exposure is good, especially when they get into clinician roles, to better understand their patients and to have some more background. And without it, how you treat it can impact how you treat, if that makes sense. So can you kind of touch on how that can impact the other side as far as being a therapist?
Yeah, I think that, in general, even my students of color, my other Black students, I always tell them that not all of your clients or all of your patients are going to look like you. And that's especially true in an agency setting. Now, in private practice, you may be able to kind of cherry pick, like, I really want to work with this. I really want to work with that. But when I was working at the ER, I couldn't pick and choose. I had to see who came through the door. And I think that when you're getting to know a person, like, it's really, and it sounds kind of cliche to say, because I don't necessarily believe in, that I don't see color. Like, I think that we all see color, but really seeing people beyond just the color, like really getting to know that person, because there may be, I tell my students all the time about an experience that I had in grad school. There were not a lot of Black students. There were not a lot of males. There's not a lot of males in my profession, period. I had a professor that anytime she talked about poverty, she would always turn to me and say, can you give us your perspective as a Black male? I never grew up in poverty. I never experienced that, but it was an assumption and it was a socially constructed assumption that she had, that because I was Black and male, that, I had probably struggled to get into school and that there were all of these things. And it happened consistently the whole
semester. Caucasity, like, wait a stop. I beg your finest pardon. What?
I tell my students that all the time, and I tell them that as a learning lesson, like, never judge when you're working with clients, regardless of maybe most Hispanics do this, or most Blacks do this, or most whites do this. Never lead with that. Allow people to tell you their story, because you never know. You don't know who you're in class with, you don't know who you're sitting next to. Like, let people tell you their story, ask questions. Don't go in with assumptions about who you think somebody is, because think about, for me, I saw that as a moment to overcome. Like, that motivated me. But think about how many students that would have been it for them. They would have quit. They would have felt inadequate. They would have felt like, I'm not enough. Like, that could have really been damaging for another person, and not used as, it was a source of motivation for me. I'm like, why does she keep assuming that I grew up?
Would have been better than a wet cat on a Friday.
The thing about it is that, there's nothing wrong with growing up poor if that was my experience. But I'm like, there's white students in the class that literally grew up poor that could speak to all of these experiences that you are just putting on me because of how I look and what you perceive Black people have gone through.
Yeah, she probably would have made me change my major from therapy to attorney, because then I would have to bring all the facts, like Exhibit A. Yes.
But what's funny is age and growth is a beautiful thing, because it wasn't until really recently that I really acknowledged that experience. Like, when it happened, it was such a familiar experience, like just growing up in a disenfranchised environment, always feeling somewhat less than just because of the kind of place that I grew up in. Like, it wasn't an unfamiliar experience. It's like, okay, of course, this is just kind of what you have to deal with other people. And it wasn't until I started telling this story to my classmates that I realized, like, that actually wasn't right. Like, I talk about it now, like, in a laughing way, but just think about how many other Black students she did that to, and they didn't come back to class.
Mm-hmm. But how long that went unchecked?
Yeah.
Because you're a good one. Because the other side of me, I've always thought about law school. We've had that conversation offline. And yeah, we probably would have had a open class conversation because the other attorney in me would have manifested, and it just would not have been good. Like what? So say that again because it's not landing the way you think that it is. Like the class would have been like, yeah, not good. Wait, shut up, Camille.
I'm like, why me? There were other Black females in the class, some of which they
worried about their grade.
Back then it's, we just live in a different society now. Like, I feel like I would never tolerate that now.
No.
I would never tolerate that now. Back then, we're talking about 2011. It just was different.
Yeah,
we were kind of at their mercy. Like, it's like you complain and then, I'm targeted the whole semester and then they start talking about me to other professors that are going to give me a hard time. I wouldn't even think about that now. I would not care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to advocate for myself. But back then, it was this fear that I just got to go along to get along. Like, don't cause a fuss. Just get your education, move on. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and I think for us, our generation, this post-pandemic crew, we're just not with the shenanigans. After seeing like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, everything happening now, it's just like, I'm gonna go live, say that again,
right?
Pretty much over it. So kind of turning the corner here, getting into the other half of this conversation because you are part of our mental health corner with the podcast, Antwan. Hey, Angela, how are you doing? In this space right now, we're seeing a lot of foolishness going on with voter registration rights, Civil Rights Act for me, but for you as a man, what does that do to your mental space? Like, how are you navigating this space? Strip away doctoral student, educator, entrepreneur, philanthropist, but how is Antwan navigating this space?
I think it's really hard because I think that we talk a lot about really motivating people to vote and really encouraging people to be change agents. But when things happen structurally that make it hard for us to do that, it's like, gosh, how much longer can I tell people to keep pushing through before I don't even believe that? Because it can feel very defeating, things that just keep happening that really just aren't fair. So I think that it's hard. I think that I continue to do my part. I try not to have that defeated mindset because I think that once you get that mindset, you become that. Like we all do. Like once we get a certain mindset, we're gonna aim towards that mindset. But I will admit it is hard. And I'm a consumer of news and politics. So I'm that person that's, I watch CNN, I'm watching those things really almost daily. So I'm consuming a lot of it. But I need that information. I know for some people, and I think that it's important for people to recognize, like, what kind of person are you? For some people, I don't need to see that. Like, introducing that into my spirit is harmful for my mental health. It does not make me feel good. So I'm going to not even watch the news. I'm not going to follow politics. I know a lot of people that are like that. And I think that if you are that person, like, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. For me, I have to know what's going on. So even if it's harmful to consume, it would be more harmful for me to not know what's going on and something happened and I'm just like, wait, what's going on? And I got to play catch up. But it's hard. It's hard right now.
Yeah. For myself, I'm like you. I really have gotten into a lot of the international news outlets because you get that other perspective, like Al Jazeera's, looking at UK news, looking at news reports from Africa, Canada, BBC. And the reason being is because through social media, we've really become more global citizens, and it's made the world smaller, to a degree, if that makes sense, through social media, because you can have a conversation in London and talk to them so much and might know them better than your next door neighbor.
Mhm.
And so also being in the podcast space, the media space, of course, um, little light journalism. I know we have conversations here, but on my streaming platforms, there are certain news stories that I've been following, and I'll give my listeners updates. One story I've really been on top of is the Laura Smith Fields murder. Black
Mm.
woman that was killed online by her Caucasian boyfriend, and the
Mm.
police have not done their due diligence to give her or her family justice. And so periodically I'll go through and dig through stories to see if there's new information, new reports, and I put that out there. So yes, I do publish the podcast live here, but I also do maybe I'll do like a review. So like maybe once a quarter. Here's what you missed in the last month and catch up a lot of those stories that are impacting our community because a lot of listeners and viewers spend a lot of their times on Instagram, TikTok, but not really getting news. And so I take it as my responsibility to be a source to put that information out there. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm in the news. I look at Joy Reid, Don Lemon, Aaron Pernez, which has become a major voice. Those are the OGs, right? And then you have Roland Martin, right? And I remember growing up as a child, dating myself, but we had BET Nightly News, Jackie Reed, Ed Gordon, Tavis Smiley,
Yeah.
that was that. And so here we are in this generation, this time with these things happening. So I think it's very important. There are times I'm like, it's too much, and I'll pull back. But like you, I need to know what's happening because the way these laws are changing, how many people that don't watch the news have no idea what's happened with the voting rights, civil rights, clueless, right? And so they're like, I'm gonna go vote. You're gonna have a big surprise in November, right?
Yeah.
And so I think now it's imperative that even if you're not watching every day, pick a day. If you're catching up on Monday or Wednesday or Friday, pick 1 or 2 days, usually Monday and Friday, because whatever happened over the weekend, maybe Wednesday, but pick 1 or 2 days a week and catch up on the news. It's very important.
I agree. I agree. And even if, there's so many ways to get information now. There's apps. I have certain news apps downloaded where even if I'm not able to read the entire article, just even getting a headline can give you some insight into like, oh, let me look into this more. I'll get a lot of different pings and some things I may be a little bit less interested in. But you got to get reliable news too. That's the other thing, because there's a lot of stuff on social media that's not always credible, and it will give you one piece of it, but you still got to go and do your own research for yourself.
Absolutely. And then those individuals that we mentioned, they all have social media pages. So if you're not going to go watch the news, follow them on social media because a lot of them are now just posting the same video that from the news releases on their pages. Like Joy Reid, she's live on Substack. She's live on TikTok, and
I love her.
When I say that, she is so intelligent, so smart, like so well read. Don Lemon, even when he went through when he was taken into custody a few months ago, and how I won't say silence, but the way CNN handled him, but yet it opened the door for him to almost give new life to his career as a journalist. It
And
really
he's very unfiltered now.
unfiltered. We love Uncle Don. And Roland Martin, and so are these Jamil Hill, another one. Bakari Sellers, the list goes on.
South Carolina native.
Smart, and then I follow like Know Your Rights, Colin Kaepernick with his page. Lots of great information there. So there are resources available. I look at, of course, Atlanta News First, but there are a lot of other independent sources. So I think that's very important. As we kind of turn the corner and get to the end of this conversation, Antwan, what do you foresee as far as on the end for Black men and mental health with the messaging and the climate of where we are, and members of our society that are feeling very emboldened on what they feel is their right, how should Black men handle and navigate their mental health and wellness during this time with our generation?
I think that Black men have a huge opportunity right now, as well as a huge responsibility, because the generation before us did not have access to what we have access to. The generation before us didn't know as much as we know. We're now in a place where we got the information. We know the information, and we got to do something about it. We can't depend on other communities to do something about our community. We can't depend on government. Like, it's literally time for us to really come together as a collective and lift our own communities up. And I think that's a huge opportunity in terms of really building those relationships, building those coalitions. But I think it's also a huge responsibility, because that may not be something that we previously did. Maybe we pushed the responsibility off with, well, whoever else was going to do it. Or, they can get on government assistance. Government assistance may not be there. Like, they're literally dangling that daily. So all of the protections that we used to have, abortion rights, voting rights, all of these different protections that people had to make choices that make sense for them, we're losing those choices slowly but surely. But we got to pull together as a coalition. And I think that we have to continue having the conversation. And that's been something ongoing that me and you have talked about, is that checking in on each other and really having those conversations when I'm not doing okay. I think that it's so quick to say, and it can almost make you feel uncomfortable when you're, hey, how are you doing? I'm not doing well. It's like, because we're so conditioned to say I'm doing fine, but actually say, if you're not doing fine, then say that. And as a friend or a person that cares about that person, be ready to receive that response.
Yeah.
So I think togetherness, connectedness, is going to be our next step, that we got to really be in charge of the motivation that we want to see happen.
Absolutely. And I had Recondius on here, Rico, a couple weeks ago, and we had that conversation as far as even with men creating a safe space for each other. And he shared some things on the podcast as far as there was just a series of life events he was going through, and the pressure, right, of it being built up and not having that. Sometimes we see on the far end of it where, you see a man, black men on the news because they popped the top, and the root of it was built up pressure and anger because they didn't have that safe space to be heard, to express, anyone to listen. But on the other end, it can show up as performative exhaustion, working hard but quietly depressed, achieving but really going through it. And so finding that middle ground, being that balance on the scale for each other, where you want your male friends and brothers and cousins and uncles to talk to you, but also asking yourself, have I created environment and space where he feels comfortable enough to come and talk to me about that without chiding him about his manhood or whatever else, and just realize he's a human being going through an emotional experience right now.
Yeah, I mean, me and I don't think I've talked about this a lot on this podcast, but my brother is a pastor. And me and my brother are really close. And we have these conversations. We have these very deep conversations. Like, when we're going through things, that is the first person that I tell most things to. Like, that is my confidant. And I think that but that's a relationship that me and him have. But there's a lot of friends that there could be an opportunity that I could have that similar relationship with. But I just may not. Like, people just hold so much in because we've been conditioned that that's what we have to do, that there's weakness in being vulnerable. And that's the narrative that we have to change.
Do you think that a lot of that has increased because of social media, of the perception of having it all together, succeeding, doing all the things. And this is just me. I feel like it's crippled the space for having real authentic conversation because you having this moment doesn't line up with what you just posted 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. I think that some of it probably was present before social media, but I think social media did not help at all.
Mhm.
Because I think that social media confirmed what we were already thinking. I think that even before social media, we may have thought on the outside looking in that other people have so much more than us and that we're not good enough and that everybody else is doing better than us. I think that social media confirm a lot of that thought process because people will get on Instagram and, you know, they'll start flaunting and they'll start portraying a lifestyle that may not be accurate. And then we will consume that and we will compete with that. And before you know it, we got two people competing about something that isn't even real.
Mm.
You know, none of us got money or none of us got whatever it is that we are portraying on social media. So we're trying to impress people that don't matter and don't care about us most of the time.
Oh, I want to let that marinate because I find truth in that because when you see someone has posted a loved one has passed away, it's just emojis, prayer hands, or condolences. You know, it's just very generic.
Mhm.
And this person is literally crying on social media, and it's just heart emojis or light and love, you know,
So
and
sorry.
so sorry.
Right.
And I have made it a note, not all the time, but if I have a decent level of rapport, I try to actually leave a voice note or a meaningful text message and say, hey, you know, you're processing. I'll call and check and follow up on you later. But I wanted you to know I saw your post and say what I say. But I think some things goes beyond an emoji.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I mean, when we look at, you know, what is the content that you post that gets the most attention? You know, there's just certain things that I know that if I post this is going to get more attention than, you know, if I post something else. And it's a lot of times superficial stuff. I can post a gym thirst trap. I can post a gym thirst trap.
You know, I'm sorry.
I do from time to time.
Yeah, the summer's coming up. Mesh.
Will get so much attention, but then I posted that I got a 4.0 yesterday and probably got 100 likes.
I know I said something. I was like, I am so proud. Like,
I haven't even checked it, but I know that it's not nearly as much as when, you know, I post the gym thirst trap. So it's just, but it's like, what is that reinforcing to me? Like, okay, being smart is cool, but you know, that sexy image is better. So, you know, let me like suppress the part of me that I really care about, which is being smart, being a student, you know, scholastic achievement, but let me promote a part of me that I'm not as passionate about, but it's the part of me that people give me the most attention about. It's like, what does that do to me inside? Like, what message is that sending me? What message is that reinforce? How do I internalize that?
Absolutely. As we begin to wrap up here, one of the things I think is very important, maybe I want to know your thoughts on this as far as the bereavement post before we move on. Do you think maybe because as a society, we've seen so much death, so much trauma, so much negativity to see another post about our grandmother, or because during the pandemic, people were just posting lost one, lost one, lost one. All they have is an emoji.
I think that could be the case. I mean, I think there's a lot of grief fatigue. And I particularly think that our generation, when you think about it, our generation has experienced the most changes in terms of technology, but we've also experienced some of the most loss. When we were kids were not dying. Like, it just was not as widespread. Like, there may have been, a kid that died in second grade that had cancer, a kid that got hit by a car, but these were all rare instances. But I think in today's society, there's so many people that die just senselessly that grief just becomes another thing. I mean, there's so many of my classmates pass away, or just people that I know, that it just becomes this thing where it's like, it's nobody is promised. Like, when we say that I'm not promised to live today or to live tomorrow, that's true. And that's why I live every day to the fullest. We both are people of faith, so I thank God every day when I have breath, because so many people didn't. So I do think that there's an aspect of grief fatigue. I also think there's an aspect of trauma fatigue, because then you'll have the people that may not be posting grief, but just post all of the negative aspects of themselves. And social media does something for them in doing that, and constantly consuming, like, you got grief over here, you got trauma over here, you got breakups over here, you have all of this negative stuff that sometimes an emoji may be all I have.
That's good. We're gonna put a pin in that right there. Before we close everything out, one more thing.
Before we wrap up, what are your key takeaways from our conversation, and where can our listeners find you on social media?
We love that.
Jazz. People are loving jazz. Like,
I love that. I think that my key takeaway is to be proud of the person that you are. I think that there's a lot of things that make us different, but there's a lot of things that make us the same. And be proud of that person that you are. Like I always say, reach out to those people that love and care about you. If you are hurting, do not hold it in. If you got people in your circle that really support you, utilize your support system. In terms of finding me on social media, A.G. Aiken. You can also find me at Eggs Up Grill in Morrow, #1 brunch restaurant, serving breakfast, brunch, and lunch daily from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I need to come out there. It's so far.
It's...
I'm like, I just drove to Atlanta. You want to drive tomorrow? Like, look, what about order? Can we just meet like in Midtown Connector?
Like Midtown. We're going to have to work something out.
Hey, Lord have mercy. And the food looks so good. And I'm a breakfast girly. But after driving 4 hours, and I'm like...
You got to drive another, let's say 30, 40 minutes.
Like,
I get it.
Sandy Springs, because childhood.
Oh, see, and yeah, Sandy Springs is like, you talking way south and way north.
Yeah, that's my neck of the woods. Like,
Sandy Springs area.
Yes, perimeters. That's where you'll find me.
Oh, see, I never go to that part of town. Like, something has to bring me there. It's so far. I live on the south side, so that's like 45 minutes from me. Like, something would have to bring me to perimeter.
That's what I'm saying. That's my neck of the woods. So yeah. And they haven't. We'll talk offline because I don't want the whole city at my new restaurant I found, which is amazing.
Gatekeep.
Yeah, gatekeep. I'm like,
the whole city can come to my restaurant, but not,
not in mine. Not to mine. No, we've been open 2 weeks. Give it a minute. Like it's just the air is fresh. It doesn't smell like Jamaica. I love it. The air is so clean in here. I love it. So yeah, we'll talk offline. Yeah. With that being said, everybody, thank you, Antwan, so much for joining me. It's always just a joy to have you here, and you always bring just great insight to the conversation. And it seems like we keep going back to Black men and mental health, but I think it's a conversation that we need to have, and we need to continue to have that conversation, and hoping that it will be inspiration for brother out there to explore, consider, or even dive deeper into their personal wellness, because I feel like when our men are better, our community is better.
Mm-hmm. Community is all we got right now. In these trying times we got to stick together with each other.
Absolutely. Well, that being said, everybody, good night. We'll be off next week. Memorial Day weekend
I don't think it's next week.
is it? When is wait a minute. I'm looking at the calendar. No, we still have one more week. Okay, but yes, I'm off next week because I'm taking a break. Between school and podcasting is like timeout. But yeah, be sure to follow me across all streaming platforms. Be sure to like, comment, share. I'm working to rebuild my new Instagram page. So please, please, please follow me. We've now hit a milestone, over 12,000 downloads. We're now streaming in 106 cities. 1,245 countries and growing. So I'm super proud of that. With that being said, y'all be blessed and good night.
Wow. What a conversation. I hope you got something from tonight's episode. If you missed tonight's convo, no worries. Just catch the replay on YouTube and be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Keep the SpeakHer Podcast ad-free. Scan the QR code and buy me a coffee. Your support keeps us ad-free as we continue to bring you conversations impacting the community and the culture.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the SpeakHer Podcast. Be sure to follow Camille on Instagram at camille.essick, Facebook at the SpeakHer Podcast, or www.camilleessick.com.
It's the SpeakHer Podcast. Can we be your ear candy? Nothing can describe the feeling. Listen, love the Speak Podcast. The feeling when you're here. There's a vibe in your ear.